Hi, this is Bonnie Burd with New Earth AC today, and we're doing a community chat here with Wendy Napolitano. And I just want to introduce this beautiful lady. She's really amazing and interesting, and she is an experienced alchemist. She has discovered Merlin's magic dragon, Elven, and other past life associations, which assist in her removing multidimensional blocks, curses, and attachments affecting the current body and brings the field back to optimal state. She is a channel and is a crystalline DNA activator, as well as speaks and writes light language. She is able to transmit light codes to upgrade your body to the next level of vibrational frequency. What an amazing lady. So, hi, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, Bonnie. I'm great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here and having an opportunity to speak with the new AC community and share some of the things that I do, some of the healing that I do, and introducing you to some kind of like how my journey started, what happened, and what my background is on that.
Yeah, it's well. So, what we want to know is, how did your journey start? Give
So,
us a little bit of your background.
so basically what happened is in 2012, I was out in South Dakota. And while I was out there, I was literally like over a lake and kind of in the mountains. And as we were driving by this campground, I said, hey, could you, I want to go over there to that campground. Like, I want to see what it is. I want to check it out. Like, I had this like urge, like I need to go and see this place. So then we ended up driving over there. And as soon as I got to that spot, then, my husband he was driving, he ended up getting a call. So he was separate from me. So there was this bridge that went across the lake. So I just kind of was walking and looking at the water. And as I went over to the bridge, I walked across it. And then it was very quiet and peaceful. And I thought, wow, this is like an incredible spot. Like, look at this beauty. Like, I was just enjoying the beauty. And so I was just having one of those moments. And then all of a sudden I heard drumming. And I listened to it for about 10 minutes, the drumming. And I was like looking around and I was like, thinking in my mind, like my ego, is there a powwow going on or something? Like, why am I hearing this drumming? So then I was like, all right, I go, I was like, let me just walk back after it stopped. And so I was like, well, let me go see what my husband's doing. So I walked back across the bridge and then I went over to where he was at by the car. And when I got there, I said, oh my God, like, wasn't that drumming incredible? Like, it just like went on and on. And he looked at me and he kind of had this blank look on his face. And he goes, what drumming? I didn't hear any drumming. I'm like, there's no way you couldn't have heard it. It was across the whole lake. So I had that experience and then I had it in my mind. And so years later, I ended up having some repeat surgeries. And as I was hitting those repeat surgeries, and this was around 2017, I had one year. I had the exact same surgery a year later. And I thought, there's got to be more. There's got to be holistic healing. But as I had my original experience when I was I almost died when I was 6. My dad used to take phenobarbital for his muscles and as a relaxer. And so I took them. Apparently I climbed on the cabinet, got into them, took them and overdosed on them. And my mom took me to the hospital. They didn't pump my stomach. They just pretty much sent me home. But then I found out years later that I had a merger with the Pleiadians. But this was done in my journey, right? But in the meantime, so as a child, when I was 7, my first experience with something more was I actually heard that, that clairsentience, that or maybe it's clairaudience, right? When you hear, so it sounded like somebody standing next to me, talking to me, yelling in my ear. And they yelled at me, where is your brother? Like really loud. Where is your brother? So that was like the first like real experience. And I was like, I don't know. And then kind of one of the old Bible stories came to mind. And I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe like this is an angel talking to me. Like my little brain was like trying to figure it out. But it came with such a feeling that I had to go and like find him. So I ended up spending I walked away from my lunch and I, was asking my mom what happened, where'd he go? And so anyway, I ended up finding him about 2 miles away from where we lived. So I was 7 at the time, maybe almost 8. And my brother is a year and a half younger than me. So what he did is he was playing hide and seek and climbed inside one of those little boxes, and the box had like one of those D rings, and the lever came down, and so he couldn't get back out of it. He was trapped.
Oh,
So if I hadn't have gone to go find him, if I didn't find that urgency or that sensing, I don't think it would have been a good outcome. So,
right.
but that moment was such a significant impact that for the rest of my life, I always, experienced, that metaphysical aspect of I would know things and not understand why I knew them. I would have experiences. I'd have precognitive dreams. They'd come true. And so it was kind of a teaching ground for me to like learn what these experiences are. And then once I had my awakening state, my ancestors, my Sioux ancestors, who I found out during channeling sessions later is who awakened me to that, like, now it's time, like it's time to get busy. Your ascension path is en route. And so, so then when I know I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
I know, but I got to ask you a question because I came in like you did, wide open like that. Was it easy for you as a child with all these gifts? I mean, did you have somebody that could help you and talk to you about it when you were having hearing these voices and doing all these things?
Well, interestingly enough, my mother was a palm reader, and her mother and the mother before her all had like these kind of like psychic type experiences. And so we talked about, the spirit. We talked about how other influences are, that there's more, right? So I always knew there's something more, and I always knew there's God. Like I knew that there's God. And so, so I did go through a faith journey, which of course I had to unlearn once I had a spiritual journey, because those limiting beliefs, they're still in your head. You have to learn how to accept them and release them out through, who you are as a being. And so,
Yeah.
And so anybody who, and it's hard to do, it's very difficult. So anybody who has any type of religious background, it's almost like having to accept that was your learning path. You did there's definitely some truths that are in there, but it's like kind of weeding out what the truths are. And so that for me, that's what I had to do. And so I'm like, oh, well, that part was true. Like I learned that, and that part was true. But it's also interesting because as I was growing up, being a military brat, my dad was in the Air Force. And so we traveled from place to place. So I didn't know at the time that I was a grid worker. And so with my dad being transient with all these different places, it was putting me and my energy in those places. And I can't tell you, I was really pretty much known to be like a barefoot person all the time, like always. Like you would find me, I would walk, I'd go play basketball barefoot. I'd be walking around on the hot asphalt barefoot. And we were living in, California and the Philippines and down in Oklahoma and Louisiana and Maine. And then of course, traveling through, the various states to get there. I think there's only 3 states that I have not been in the contiguous states, and Alaska. So I have not been in Alaska.
Wow.
I have not been in Minnesota, Idaho, and Washington. So, and I'll be in, my husband's saying, you were in Minnesota. Okay, I was in Minnesota. I'm so bad.
The wall was talking.
Thank goodness, they pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I love it. That's how my house is too. All of a sudden somebody says something. I need my keys, or an arm comes through.
Right? You'd be like, what can I get for you?
I know. It's so funny. But anyways, reason why I was saying that to you is because with me, my family was really religious, and the things that I was doing was they would just poo-poo it away and say, yeah, you're not really seeing ghosts, or you're not really hearing things. You're not, it'll, just go to sleep. You'll be fine. There's nobody in there. So, and it wasn't until I grew up that I had asked my dad, because his mom was Indian. So he had the gifts. Right. He had them. And he said, well, I just figured you just shouldn't ignore it. It would stop bothering you, because that's what I did. And I was like, no, they didn't go away. I was terrified.
when they're trying to reach you, they want to reach you. But it's all that whole like learning how to protect yourself. But it's interesting because even as a child, I always knew that Archangel Michael was with me. I always knew that he was there protecting me. So again, don't know how I knew that, but I always knew it. So
yeah, you're very lucky.
But now I understand that, you know, that I am still connected, and then discovering my archangel self, you know, in my journey's path. So skipping back from my childhood, going forward to like what's happening here and now. So in like 2017, 2018, I had surgery, and then I had a second surgery, you know, all like related to my cervix. And so, you know, that kind of that divine feminine is like a big aspect of my, like working with like Sekhmet and Isis, and I don't know if you can see her behind.
Oh my God!
But I've got her up there. But anyway, so
same.
that divine feminine. But when I discovered I was Archangel Raziel, didn't come for a few years until after I began working with the crystal skulls. So because I was having these surgeries, I thought, okay, there's something more, and I know that there's more healing, and I know that there's energy healers. So I just started looking. So I started my journey with watching a lot of videos on quantum healing hypnosis technique, and everybody probably recognizes it as QHHT.
Yeah.
And so I went to, I looked in my area, and I found a healer, and the woman that I found, she said she's not really doing it anymore, but she felt this energy from me, and she's like, so I agreed to work with you. And so I went to her, and then during my session, I went deep, really pretty quick. And then during that session, after we were kind of healing, we were doing a lot of like negative energy release. And then when I went down so deep, of course, my higher self came through and was having a conversation. And so I could hear myself saying, it's time for her healing journey to begin. And then she was asking, the practitioner was saying, well, what do you mean like by that? Can you explain that? And they said, she's a healer. She'll be working with crystal skulls, and she'll be using those skulls for healing others. And so, of course, on my little ego mind, my monkey brain is in the side going, what is she talking about? But at the same time, I was, but she talking about was referring to me, my higher self, describing to the practitioner. And so then I would say we. So I started using the plural term we. So obviously my guide team was coming through as well. We are healing her. We're activating her crystalline DNA, and then she'll be able to use those techniques and tools as healer. And then they said the crystal skulls will protect her from the masses. And so anyway, so I had the rest of my healing done from that session. And then after I got up from that session, I was like in such a state. I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to use the washroom. And I couldn't I couldn't wake up. And I remember there was a point where she kept yelling. I went so deep. She kept saying, Wendy, are you there? Wendy. So she was like calling me back. And then finally I came and talked to her. And that's when I started telling about the healing with crystal skulls. So of course it was working. Once I started working with the skulls, I just trusted that it was something that I was supposed to be doing. I was like, okay, I know that this is my path. So then, so I wasn't using Reiki or anything, but I was like working with energy, and I just knew how to do it. So I ended up going to like a shared Reiki, and I've never done it before, but it was just like, oh, just put your hands over and you can, move over the body or whatever. So I just followed their guidelines. I had no idea anything about it. I hadn't read about Reiki or anything like that. I knew about quantum healing, but I didn't know about Reiki. So as I started to learn about Reiki, the guy that I was working with, so I did a healing session. So I literally just did like a prayer. And in my mind, I just said a prayer and said, whatever pain, because he said he had a past life experience where he was stabbed. And so I was thinking about that, like in my ego brain. But then he said, the pain. So I said in my mind, any pain that he's experiencing, I'm asking for that to be released. And so I was going through his body, went to one side, went to the other side. And when I got to the other side of him, all of a sudden, I was just like overwhelmed, like this feeling of like, I'm going to cry. Like, I don't know why I'm going to cry, but I'm getting ready to cry. Like, this is like really like overwhelming, and an overwhelming experience for me. So I finished. And then afterwards I said to him, I said, I just need to share something with you. I said, cause you talk about, how it felt, the energy moving, blah, blah, blah. So then I said to him, I said, I had this very dramatic experience with you. I said, I felt like I literally, like my heart was hurting and I was just getting ready to cry. Like I was, like if I had stayed there 3 more seconds, I would have been bawling. And then he looked at me very seriously and he said, he like takes a breath like that, like a release. And then he says, it's understandable. He said, I lost my son a year ago and the anniversary was like either the day before or like coming up in a couple days. Like, so it was very fresh in his mind. And so I was like, oh my God. So, but for me, it gave me the experience that my abilities were beyond physical healing. They were emotional healing. So it's like it's like my higher self decided to give me little breadcrumbs along the way to like help me learn what my what my practice will be as far as healing. And then of course it's grown and grown from there. But I do have crystal skulls, and I don't know if you can see them behind me here on this table.
Oh, beautiful.
But I have my skulls and my dragon, and then I actually have a master skull, and I have him here, and he's always at my desk. And this is Dragar.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
He's an agate, and the crystal skulls call you. You don't call them. You know what I mean? Like they call you to work with them, and so they were calling me. But once I started doing the healing and learning more, and then working with, channeling groups and just discovering more about my gifts, asking a lot of questions, writing, like I would channel write. And I knew that I was doing that for years before I found out about my awakening, because I was journaling all the time. And I'd be like, what am I writing? Like, it would kind of surprise me sometimes. And then once I did start finally working with the skulls, then I started explaining I'm a transmuter. I am a transformer. And so I transmute that energy. But as a transformer, what the crystal skulls, while I was learning how to hold energy, the crystal skulls would help me raise up the vibration of whoever I was working with and help to bring my angelic vibration down. And so it would meet together. And in this meeting is where the healing would happen. And that would give me access to their higher self, always asking permission, always, with the intention of it being for their highest and best good, especially when you start moving into the higher chakras for clearing. And so also discovering that I'm a crystalline DNA activator. And also when I'm working with people, I activate other DNA gifts that have been dormant and they come online. So I don't know if you've had those experiences. Is that something that happens with you too?
Oh yeah. I've had, but not, everybody's way of doing things is their own blueprint. That's the
Right.
way. I mean, the way you're never going to go to a practitioner and get the same thing. It's always going to be unique to that person, to that person's DNA. They might use the same words, but they're always going to come about it in a different way, because everybody has a different team. Everybody was raised differently. Yeah, and so it's like
you're pulling in, right, because you pull in that information from your team, and and it's interesting. Sometimes I'll go back and watch some of my earlier videos, and also when they're in the editing process, and when I'm re-listening to it, I'm like, I'll ask somebody a question, like when I'm working with their higher self, and I'll ask them a question, or maybe it's an ascended master, and then before they have a chance to answer, I'll see myself either mouthing the word or I'll answer it, especially if it's a yes, no answer. Or sometimes I'll say, it is done. So it's like before I realized that I was a channeler, I mean, I guess I felt like I would, like, intuition maybe was working for me. So I was, pulling that information in, not realizing that while we were connected and working, that I was like hearing your team at the same time. And so what ended up happening is I would ask a question like, can you, is the healing done? Or is, like a yes, no question. And then I'd say yes. And then the person, she or he, would repeat back, yes. And so I'll go back in the editing. So I wouldn't like hear myself doing it when I was channeling, but then I was like, oh, okay, I can use this gift too, because there's been times where the person, if I'm working with somebody who's not really like doing a lot of meditating, or they're not like used to connecting with themselves, or they haven't practiced kind of like that visualization, like visualization meditations. So when I'll
Uh-huh.
say things like during the session, if I say something like, what do you see? So sometimes seeing isn't just with your eyes, it's like the knowing and like the
See,
hearing,
feel.
sensing. Yeah, see, feel, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll try to work with somebody and I'll say, so like, do you like Jack? I'm just like early questions like, so do you meditate, or are you like, or where are you in your journey? So I want to ask those questions up front. And then also what I like to do is I like to say to the person I'm working with during a session, so pre-session, I'm asking questions like, what do you want to know about? Do you want to know about your journey? Do you want to know who your guides are? Do you want to know why you've got like bad relationships? Do you know why you've got a fear of heights? Do you want to know, what's your
But you
life's
know what?
mission?
The
Yeah,
questions aren't just because you're asking them for you. They're
it's
actually
extension.
telling their guides. They're telling the guides what they want you to help you do, whatever it is they need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Exactly. That's so funny too that you point that out too, because they'll kind of go, I don't know what kind of questions. So I have like a few like preliminary, like this is something that kind of comes up a lot. And so then I'll just say, something like along these lines, like anything about these kind of topics. So I'll give them some topics and maybe a sample question.
yeah,
And I tell them to like find a quiet time and write to themselves, because then they're tapping into their own self, not realizing that as they're writing that it's almost a prayerful request is what they're creating, because
yeah.
they're
In
it, right,
the
writing.
spoken and the written word is very powerful. So if they're writing it down beforehand, that's even better. Yeah.
Exactly. So, so along my journey, so I've got my best girlfriend from high school, and we've like stayed friends and stay in touch. And she's still in South Dakota, which is, of course, often when I'm back there, I'm visiting with her. So as I started on my healing journey, before I learned that I could heal, not physically in person, but in quantum, I said to her, I said, I think I can do this. I said, can we just try it? Like, can you get on a call with me? And I'm going to do a healing session with you. And she said, yeah, let's do it. So during this session, still like feels like emotional to me when this happened. So she lost her father due to suicide, and so there was a lot of heart healing, and there was a lot of energy that he was holding on to. So when he passed, the way he passed, he stayed, and he stayed in the dark. And so during this healing session, when we called him into the session, because I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to like have this now that he's not on Earth, having that that higher realm conversation. And so he comes into the session and he has a conversation with her, and she's like, I see him, but he's covered in black. It's like a big black bear is wrapped around him. And
Mhm.
so what I ended up doing is I ended up asking her to like have a conversation with him because of their connection, like that cord, right, that familial cord. And so she was talking to him, and so she would say, I would tell her to have him like look for his light, and he says, oh, I see it, it's like a little dot, it's like a pinprick. And so we were talking him into like making the light larger, and then like trying to recognize himself as a light being, as a soul. And so it took some convincing, because he was like, I don't deserve it, why would I go to heaven? So he had all these like his own thought processes, and he'd been in the dark for how many years since his passing, and probably 30 years since his passing. But um but finally he reaches a point where he accepts, and so I have the angelic team come down. And so the moment that he accepts, she goes, oh my God. She, of course her eyes are closed, but the expression in her voice, and she goes, oh my God, she's lighting up like a Christmas tree. And so
I love it. I
it was
love
like
it.
pop, pop, pop. So that visual of him like pop, 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 like just becoming this light being in front of her, in front of her mind's eye, as she was visually seeing this, was just so amazing. And then they had this conversation of, I'm sorry I wasn't the father I should have been, and I shouldn't have left the way I did. And so it was like this very healing, consoling love exchange that happened. The freedom that was released from it was just incredible. And so anyway, there was some other healing work that went on. And so of course, Archangel Michael and Raphael, helped him up to ascend, to bring him into the realm. And so afterwards she gets up, and so, we were on a Zoom call. And so, but I wasn't recording it or anything at the time. It was just like a call so I could like see visually and experience what that felt like. And so when she sat up, she looks at me and she goes, "What did you do to me?"
Don't you just love that?
So,
I
and
love it.
I go, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "I feel like a ton of bricks has been lifted off my shoulders." And then she was like, she was like kind of like this and standing up, walking around the room with her phone. And she's like, "I feel amazing." And so to get that like instant feedback, it was so positive, but also realizing that I could help souls cross over. Like that was my first time I helped a soul cross over. And that was just like such a beautiful experience. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, and then years later, so now I'm on my healing journey, full steam ahead. And then I do another session. I'm, back home visiting. And so, as we're talking, I said, "Hey, let's do like another session." Cause last time it seemed like there was still some more work to be done. So then I do another session with her. And then during that session, she starts to tell me that, that I'm an aspect of Ra. So I'm a fractal of Ra. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" like I just wrapped my mind around I'm an Archangel Raziel. And even that journey was like, oh, like I knew I was an angel. I was drawing myself with angel wings. I didn't know why. It was like I was telling myself, right? and then I started writing. You're an angel. You're like, I was like signing stuff, I'd start saying things to people like, "Oh, you're such an angel," And so I was like, what is this vernacular coming into my mind? And then I was in a healing session, and then they said to me, "Do you know that you're an angel?" And then I said, "Yeah, I know I'm an angel, but they won't tell me who I am." And then they started laughing, and I'm like, "I don't get it. Like, what's so funny?" And then they're kind of like, "Can we tell her? Can we tell her?" And they're like, "Yeah." So they got permission, and they're like, "You're an archangel." And I was like, "What?" Nah, get out of here. So, I mean, it does, like, because with with Catholic upbringing, you're thinking, that's like way too removed for me. Like that can't be who I am, kind of thing. But at the same time, like it resonated with me. And so I had to kind of like wrap my mind around it, get my ego out of the way and trust my higher self and my guide team. So then I started channel writing, and then I started doing light language writing before I knew what it was. I was like, why am I making these scribbles? So I just didn't understand it. And then as I started connecting more and more, working on my meditations, daily meditations, and then I ended up going to 2-a-day meditations. I was just like sucking it in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
couldn't get fast enough.
we have so many aspects. We're from everywhere. We're galactic. We're Lemurians. We have an aspect in almost every dimensionality, every and we're just beginning to learn our family. That's our family. It's part of, we're all one. And so, and I remember the first time, because Joshua has always been with me since I was a little kid, and he would always say, "I'm you and you are me," and I'd be going, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" And he would say, he would say, "You are my beloved," and I'd go, "What does that mean?" So you go through all of these phases. When you first learn about an aspect, you go, "Wow!" Your brain goes, your human brain, and then you kind of like settle in, and you start, once you settle into it and you allow, then the gifts start settling in, and then you're starting to go, "Wow, this is really cool." I just love this journey that we're all on and what we're all doing. It's so beautiful. Robin said, Robin is the other host from New Earth, and she said, when I had my QHHT session, I literally spent, here, let me put it up here so you can see it. See what she said. 2 weeks writing down questions, and then the night before I typed them up for my practitioner, and somehow my guides made sure they were answered. 2 pages. Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah, I think I started out with 4 pages originally, because I had all these experiences as a child that I was like, and what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? So I had like pages and pages. And when I handed it to her, she goes, "We're probably not going to get through all of this."
I've never actually had one of those done, but they just kind of, my guides, I channel, I write, I do light language too, and they just tell me things. Like the first thing they told me was that I was mother of all mothers, that I was here in the beginning, I was here with creation, and I went, what does that mean?
Mhm.
So I mean, it's just amazing at all the different, because it's like we all have these different recipes that we
Yes.
bring together, and we make these beautiful modalities, and we create this healing space for people. And it's just so amazing. The more we get to know each other, the better it gets, because then we know, Wendy is really good at this. Go see Wendy, or Bonnie's good at that. Go see Bonnie. We get to know each other, and we kind of make this network of love.
Exactly.
Love and
Exactly.
healing. Now
And
she's saying,
the other thing too that I find is there have been times where it ends up being like a shared experience, where that energy share, right, that's happening. So yes, it's nice to be paid, but sometimes when you're working with other healers or others, spiritualists who are on their journey, they may have some energy that you need, and then there's that beautiful energy exchange that happens too.
yeah.
So I found that comes up a lot in my journey. I don't go looking for it; it finds me. It just feels like it's
Say,
like divine timing.
yeah, that's what happens with me too. Robin says, how do you feel about being an archangel? Do you see it as you are all of the all?
So what I feel like, knowing that archangel aspect puts me more into the oneness. Because just like you were saying, like Joshua was saying to you, I am you, you are me, we are we. So
Yeah.
so I have a lot of like I am when I was writing, when I was channel writing in my early days before I knew any of this. Just knowing that I was already connected, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I was doing a lot of like I am, and there were a lot of times where I'd be like, I am you, you are me, we are we, so we're all one. So that whole oneness was already like in my vocabulary, and highly present. But of course, so I tend to be a very open and very loving person, and and of course learning with my experiences that like I am the light.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, so it's funny because it's like this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
That's my favorite
Yeah,
song.
let it shine, let it
My
shine,
favorite.
let it shine. So there are definitely guided lyrics that have happened that are definitely coming in from the top. And
Yes.
whether you want to call it God, source, creator, prime creator, however you want to reference, the higher being, the highest being, realizing that we are part of that highest being, which is why whenever I'm working with somebody, I know that I'm working with myself, and when I heal them, I'm healing myself. And so
Yes.
yeah, and as you're healing yourself and you're releasing for them, that transmuting, I end up doing a lot of like you'll see me like doing a lot of like deep breaths, like like a big yawn. And so what that is that's me taking their energy and moving it for them. And often I can't control when that happens. But
Oh,
but
I thought I'd move it with the breath, but I never thought of it. You just put it into words.
yeah,
That's
you're
pretty
moving the
cool.
energy.
Yeah.
Another thing people don't realize, if they're around, like say you go to like a drum circle or something, and maybe you're coughing, maybe you're sneezing, maybe you're burping, passing gas. Oh, did I say that on
That
air?
happens a lot. I
But
just was teaching a Reiki
that is
class.
also moving energy. It's moving
Yes.
energy.
I was
So
teaching a Reiki class, and their bellies were. I said, guys, if you're gonna fart, you're gonna fart. Don't worry about it. We're moving energy. That's how it works.
oh God, we just went there.
Oh yeah, we're humans. We can go there.
Exactly. So, and that was my next point, is that we are still embodying the 3D. So yes, I'm an archangel. Yay, I can connect in. Does that mean I'm tapped in 100% all the time? No, because I get into my ego and I get into the, what's happening here and now. But I do have to say, if I'm doing something that I love and I'm having a good time at it, I'm enjoying it. Like I am in the now. And then
Yeah.
that's what they want you to do, is they want you to be in your bliss and be in your now. And they're always telling you to do that. And people are like, well, how do I do that? Well, the best way to do that, learning moment, the best way to do that is think about something you loved to do as a child. Maybe it was playing hopscotch. Maybe it was singing, random songs. Maybe it was making up songs. Maybe it was drawing, coloring, painting. Maybe it was just going and having a tea party with your friends. So go do that. Go get together with your friends and go out for a meal. so it's something that you love to do. Maybe it's, taking a walk, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's, getting in a kayak because, your family was, near the water and you used to go kayaking. And so now, of course, my new favorite fun thing to do is discovering this paddleboard. It knocks me in the water, but I think there's a water dragon that I woke last year. I don't think I know. So, and her name is Eichhorn, which I don't say it correctly, but if you're German, please put that Germanic interjection to it, because I can't do it. I don't have an Eichhorn or however it's said. But anyway, so which is funny because my friend who speaks German says, "Oh, that means unicorn." I was like, "What? How fun is that?" So, but anyway, so the first time I got on the paddleboard, I wasn't on it for very long, and all of a sudden, and I had my balance, and all I did was turn my head, and next thing I know, boom, I was in the water, and I was like,
Oh no.
"Hang on a second, who threw me in the water?" That's not
That's
right.
so funny.
But
That's so funny.
months earlier, I was getting messages that I needed to go in the water, but it was too cold, like Lake Michigan, like the temperature, even when the day I went, it was probably somewhere between 65 to 68 degrees. Like it was pretty chilly still. But I was like, it's that shock of getting in the water. But they kept telling me to go into a body of water, like completely, completely underwater. And I was like, I wasn't really feeling like the bathtub was quite it. And I'm like, okay, but it's like 45 degrees, like it's 55 out and it's 45 degrees in the lake. Like that's not working for like dipping a body. And they're like, okay. So it's like they took that first moment, that first opportunity to dunk me.
Yeah. Because, all around us, there's keys and codes. There's things that they're trying to get you to experience and to absorb. And so they were like, oh, well, guess we'll get her to do it this way if she's not going to do it on her own.
Very sneaky indeed.
It's so funny. It is very sneaky. But, don't you get excited about all of your other aspects, meeting who they are, helping them heal, bringing them in, bringing their magic in?
So much. And learning what their magic is and discovering who they are or who I was in a past life. So, so my second session, I was getting ready to say my second session with my girlfriend, who I discovered is my twin flame. So I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense. But I found out during that session when I found out my aspect of Ra, that was the harder one to really, I'm like, okay, Ra's a god and I don't really understand how that works. And so what is that saying about me? And what does that mean about my power? And so it's like this whole new learning discovery. But they said I could not find out about Ra until I woke my twin flame. So it was a marker. And then once I hit that marker, they said, now you get to know. So then I started to incorporate my aspect of Ra, reading. I mean, I was like, I don't know. So reading about it. But I'm like, it's so funny because there's so much that they already gave me hints about. My birthday being in August. I'm a fire sign, born under the sun. I love and adore the sun. And I've always been one of those kids who's like, I just need to go to the pool and like being in the water was okay, but I wanted to lay and bask in the sun. So I feel like my childhood was like sunbathing. Like that's all I did was I love the sun. It's so good. Well, I didn't realize, of course, I'm picking up all those light codes. I had no clue about that.
Yeah. You were absolutely picking them up. But it's just, this journey that we're on is so amazing. And are the modalities that we do change daily, because every time you do a session, your guides will teach you something
new.
And and you'll be like, oh wow, that works, so you add that to it. So that's why we're all so unique and so different, and that's the reason why certain souls are more attracted to that certain person. They go to the one that has the energy or the medicine.
And that frequency needs to be there. And so that's what people are doing. They're finding, I have a lot of healers who come to me, interestingly, because they're ready to broaden and expand. And so, and it's interesting, they're actually telling me to speak light language because, so one of my aspects that we were just talking about, I just discovered. So I knew I had a galactic savior who, when I was a child and poisoned myself, they said I would have died if if this galactic entity had not merged. So their DNA and their essence merged with my already Raziel and Ra and whatever other past aspects I had. So merged, but my primary being Raziel, and then, you know, and then Ra also lending a very large aspect to my energy and my healing ability. But then once I discovered, so I was connecting with Pleiadians, I was connecting with blue Pleiadians. And then I'm like, so what kind of a Pleiadian are you? Are you blue? Or like, so when I was having a channeling session while we were working and building my own skills, and then others who were building theirs, they said, no, I'm a green Pleiadian. And I said, a green Pleiadian. So I was like, well, what color green? And I happened to be wearing a green shirt at the time, but I'm like, but what color green? And they said, kind of like a spring green, like a bright green. And I was like, oh my God. It was like, that was my favorite color crayon as a kid. I love that color.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So finding out, you know, some almost 60 years later, you know, that this green crayon is my own essence, like within me, and then just connecting and then discovering that that his name is Oman. And so I've just been there. They said that once I started working with him, now that I really know who he is, I can work with him more and like discover more. But I said, so I know that the galactics and the divine are always gifting. They're always wanting to give. And so I said, is there something that you have provided to me that I can gift to other people? And if so, can you let me know what that is? And they said, yes, it's heart sharing. And so I want to do some light language, and I want to do some heart sharing. And so what that does is that you're going to just feel your heart expand. You may feel pressure there as it begins to open. You may feel fluttering, or you may feel nothing at all and just enjoy the experience. But they're pulling that into me now. So. Uiriana that kriya each kriya ba iana no irata iana nari kriya uich kriya arat and yet that uich apata ainarata. The Lyrians are here too. That's the fate.
Oh, I love it. I felt that made my heart just twitter.
Like, let's share some love.
Yeah, that made my heart just go brrr.
All right. I know I'm just sending that. And just open your heart and receive. And this is the angelic sending now. The dragons want to speak.
Oh, yeah. I love the dragons.
And feel free to join in after if you're hearing it.
Oh, yeah. My light language is getting revved up while you're talking.
Accept your dragon heart. Open that with an open mind. Accept it into your being. Feel the energy of our love. It is fierce. We are so pleased that so many people are connecting and relating and working with the dragons at this time. Much love. Namaste. Okay then.
Yeah. Let's see what I got. I can feel it coming.
Yeah.
It's excited. It's so much love. From my heart to your heart, they're just loving you up, Wendy. And this is the voice of the scenes. They speak all in one voice with me. Tukotoboko yana kataka no kotoko shitaka and nana makutuku miantaka itaka itsukotuko utuko mayata. Your voice is a blessing. Kotokoboya dashataka atako mokutuko mayataka makata yunukutuko mayata. And we are so grateful for all of the work and all the things that you're doing to help the community. Kotokoboya taka shukataka makutopokota amokotokoboyata ishikataka didita kotokoboyataka. I think we are so blessed. My heart is so blessed. They're saying they're sending you so much love. It's all coming through. Continue to be the warrior of light. We sisters and brothers of the light. And they're sending all this love.
Beautiful. I accept and receive. Thank you.
Ooh, that was amazing. They just got really excited. But they speak in one voice with me. Sometimes they want for it, but they wanted to speak in unison to you because they so respect you and they are so amazed by your healing abilities, and they just wanted to give you a blessing for today. And to everyone who's watching, they wanted to send a blessing of love out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So cool.
I just adore them, and it's so interesting. I used to like try to list them all out, and my list was getting so long. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And they're like, you can just call us the divine. We're good. That works.
Yeah. So here's what Robin said. She said, your light language sounds galactic.
Yeah.
And then she said she could feel the angelics. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Wow. So what are you getting up to? We got to talk about your exciting thing that you're going to do.
So aside from, people reaching out to me and asking for healing sessions, that's a given. So, and feel free to, find me and reach out if you've got any questions, because I'm a teacher too. So people will just say, well, I don't understand, or how do I do a house clearing or something like that. So just reach out. I'm very open to sharing. But for healing sessions, you can just reach me that way. But the new exciting thing that's coming up. So early this year, I was getting messages that I needed to do a conference. 2 years ago in 2019, was it 2 years ago? A year ago, 2 years ago. I'm so lost with my time. They put me in the quantum, and then I'm like, I don't know what day it is.
I know, that's what happens to me too. So, my brain just is going, woo.
Yeah. So I was at the Crystal Skull conference, and I met some beautiful people there, and made a lot of connections. But shortly afterwards, and I was really connecting in with my Archangel self, and I was starting to get more healing, and I was starting to learn about more of my other aspects, and then it's come up, I do have an aspect of Merlin, and then I also have an aspect of, I know, it's crazy.
So do I.
Magic,
girl,
magic stuff that I can do.
Oh,
and then,
dragon,
and then
you and I are so alike.
Fire dragon, and then of course I have a team of 5 dragons that I work with. I don't know if that's changed or grown since, but they like to come, and so I've met Victor and Eric, and Victor and Earth Dragon, and Eric the Red, and of course King of the Dragons, and Dragons of the North, and there's so many of them. But and then the Fae started talking to me too. Like I would go out and I would do land blessings and healings, and I would deposit crystals, like a physical grid for my actual. So I have a light grid, but I have a physical grid too, and it's across the earth, and some being at the pyramids. But what I got from that was that they kept telling me, you're going to be like a speaker at a conference. Like that's what I was getting. My early pings was like a speaker at a conference. So I was like, okay, I can see myself doing that. Like I have no problem standing in front of people, and I certainly don't mind sharing or talking. It's super easy for me to do. My communication is like super easy. So I thought, all right, good. Well, then in 2020, they changed it to, you're going to be giving a conference. And I'm like, what? What is that?
Baby steps.
Yeah. So then they were telling me September. So I kind of like wasn't really talking about it. So that was at the end of 2020. I was getting this information. So I kind of had it pinging around in my head. And so then early this year, I mentioned it to somebody. I said, I'm supposed to be doing a conference. And I finally got the location. It's going to be in Mount Shasta, because I was like, am I supposed to be in Sedona or some other spring, or, somewhere out near me? And, I'm in the Chicago area, somewhere near Lake Michigan. So, you know what I mean? Like I was like,
you're only in Chicago. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So I was trying to discern, where do I need to be? Like, where's this conference supposed to be? And then it was very clear, Mount Shasta. it's Mount Shasta. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me, Mount Shasta.
Yeah, that's
Why? So the mountain has been
that's the trip.
calling me. Yeah. So we've been doing like early healings, like we've done blessings to clear the area, and it's almost like 100 miles around Shasta that has been cleared. And so unfortunately, yes, there are going to be some fires. I know there was one earlier this year.
I saw
it's meant to be cleansing, and I've always got the prayer
Yeah.
out there that it any cleansing that needs to be done can be done quickly, and I try to give it stuff to clean. So if you help give it stuff to clean, it'll burn out faster, because that's what it's trying to do, is remove that negative energy. And so if you can like, if you are hearing about a fire, like throw your crap in it, like, you know, like any old stuff that you needed to let go, you know, any anger that you might have been holding on to from an old boss, mom and dad, you know, your siblings, you know, just pitch all that stuff right in the fire, and then as it burns up that energy, as it releases, then the fire can come out and be quenched. I don't even use that word, quelled.
Because when I was in Mount Pleasant, Mount St. Shasta. When I was at Shasta, my brain switched. But when I was there, I saw the trees, and it was so sad they were burned. And I just did a prayer as we drove by, as we were going up to the mountain. And yeah, exactly. It is clearing, and it does feel. You could feel the clearing from it, you know, when you drive through it. But,
Mother Gaia's way of it's her way of renewal and new growth, because those trees that gave their lives knew, right? They knew what their experience was going to be, and it was their time to step into the next, whatever they decide to move on for their journey, for their soul's journey.
It's the same as us humans. We do the same.
Exactly. And then to realize, I mean, think about the strength. You always talk about the strength of the rock, and you think about the strength of that mountain, and the beings that are below, and the beings that are above and surround, and the energy that is just the community, right, to the mountains, Sasquatch, and you know, animals that are within our planet, and you know, and even down to, you know, the bugs. We all have a purpose. All of us have a purpose to be here, and while we are ascending, they are ascending too. And so I've got this beautiful team who has, like, almost as soon as I started talking to someone that, I'm supposed to do this, I'm going to be looking for speakers, and then it was like, oh, let me talk to some people, and I've got some speakers for you. So I've got these gorgeous co-hosts. Marilyn Nisiak is assisting me, and Terry Riviera and Carla Plua. And then the beginning part of this this thing that's happening in September. So at the beginning of the year, I said, oh, it's going to be September. And I was like, oh, that's September of 2022. Plenty of time. Like, we'll organize it, get everything together. And then she's like, well, let me check the Akashic records. And then she comes back and she's like, Wendy, she goes, you don't understand. It's this September. And I'm like, what? And my mom, when I was talking about it early with her, she said, why don't you do it this year? It needs to be this year. You should be doing it this year. And I'm like, no, Mom, it's next year. And then it's like, no, it's this year. So we're going to be there from the 17th through the 19th of September. I'll be arriving on Thursday. Friday morning, there's going to be a beautiful peace summit and an open ceremony where we're going to be blessing the land. It's going to be very ceremonial. Grandfather White Wolf will be there, and he is a ceremonial elder, so we're going to be so blessed to have him there. And then some of the other speakers that I have are authors. So Marilyn Nisiak is an author, and I hope I'm saying her name right and not messing it up, because I have a tendency to do that. And then Anara White Bear and Chris, hopefully I get his name right correctly too, Chris Katsaropoulos. So I apologize to anyone in advance if I messed up your name. And then I've also got Deborah Flieger, and she's going to be bringing her Lemurian bowls, crystal bowls. Holly Strong and her husband Rob are going to be there. Reynolds Kamakawikwole is coming from Hawaii, and he will be doing a beautiful message from Mu. Douglas Holtzman will be joining us as well, and he will be doing some drumming and ceremony, of course, with us as well. And then Lisa Vivio, who will be doing a beautiful gong bath. And then, of course, I will be doing similar to what you experienced today with light language, but I'm actually going to be doing what I do during my sessions, and it's going to be a shortened version of it. What I'm hearing is going to happen is that everybody's going to get their energy fields cleared and then open to receive. And then that's what's going to be happening the whole weekend is they're just going to be receiving, receiving, receiving. So needless to say, they may be a little tired after the event, might need a little rest. But I would like to invite anybody who is interested in going to go out to my website, www.wendynapolitano.com. There's a link there for the Lemurian conference. It's called Lemurian Call to Action. And when I asked, why is it called Call to Action? And it's like, because this is the time where you're going to have the greatest presence of Lemurian feminine, divine feminine women and energy together. So even though we're saying women, this could also be the energy of past lives. So because the men and women, as you know, have equal divine feminine, divine masculine, but it's this divine feminine that is stepping forward, and they want to begin to spread it. So people are coming in from out of town, and then they're going to bring it back out. And so there's this aspect of, I kept getting this image of the pebble in the water and how it spreads out, right? And that echo. So, but what I was told is the energy that we're going to be bringing and is going to be happening this weekend is going to be more like the comet that plummeted Earth. It's going to be a big thunk, and the waves are going to be a tsunami. So this is how it's being described to me by the divine, and by anytime I'm like channeling, people are telling me about the event. I don't know if you've heard of Hukalo, but that's another community that I am involved with. And Grindal is one of the beings that like to come through, and he's a reptilian being, but he is on the light side, of course, but he's very like down to earth and very chill. So I wasn't bringing anything up. I had a question about, I don't know, something, but during this question, all of a sudden he starts talking to me about Mount Shasta. And he's like, oh gosh, your Mount Shasta event, it's going to be amazing. You're going to have like all this stuff. And so he's like telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, what? I haven't had it yet. Like, how is all that happening?
That's so cool.
So yeah, but it's also like how we're healing in the quantum. Like, how are we able to regress and heal past lives? And I know people are like, so are you using, like, I get that asked this, are you using a hypnosis technique? I don't. The way that my team has said is I've probably because of my aspects of, Archangel Raziel and Ra and Merlin. And I'm also Mikiel, an Elven king, a twin. So I've got all this like earth energy, white magic, and, and then the divine teams helping too. Ascended masters come to me a lot. The most recent one was Lady Portia. She came in and did some blessing, and just amazing. I didn't know who she was. And I was like, who's Lady Portia? And so of course, Google.
I had to do that myself the first time she came in, and I had to Google who she was.
Yeah. and then other times, like, they'll give me images, and I'm like, oh, let me connect in. And then at one point in my journey, they said, oh, you're going to be a galactic ambassador. So not only are you, so like I'm speaking light language and then I'm translating it. And then they said, and then I'll hear it and translate it. So for example, when you're speaking, like I was already getting messages, but it'll come to me like in packets. And then sometimes it'll download later and I'll be like, oh, but I was like already feeling it. I'm like, oh, they're like appreciating me and thanking me. Like, you know what I mean? So, and then sometimes I'll hear the words, but it's interesting. Yeah.
The same thing with me too. Like I guess I like get the feeling or the emotion, or I just know what it means. And with other people's like language too, I do the same thing. And it's usually when someone's talking light language, it activates mine. And it seems like I want to talk back and forth, like have conversation. Yeah.
We couldn't go back and forth for this whole thing. Like maybe we'll just on the sidebar.
And I was also told that. Yeah. Like I was also told that I have, keys and codes for people through the scenes to help them on their ascension things. Yeah. So it's really cool. Wow. So I'm really excited about your Mount Shasta. And also we were talking that we may do a circle, because we do at the New Earth AC, we also do circles, and she's still in talking stages with her people, but we may get together and have some of her people come on and do a whole thing. So you'll know who's going to be there, and we'll help her advertise her show, which is going to be lots of fun. I'm really excited and looking forward to that. And maybe some of the people that are going to be in it, maybe they'll do a community chat, and we'll see what we can do to make this magic even bigger.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Because just to be able to have a conversation with them and learn their own journeys and like what they've gone through and where they're at, and to feel their energy, you're going to be like, oh, I see what she's talking about. Because when we're all together, it's like, boom. The last time I was with 4 out of this group, 4, we were at, because Terry does her peace summits at Serpent Mound in Ohio. And she, while we were all together there, the energy was so like vibrant and buzzy, and I call it effervescent. Like I feel effervescent, and I woke up this morning feeling effervescent, like literally, like I felt like I was like had bubbles in my blood. And then
I know, it's so cool.
The energy was amazing. But feeling that effervescence from, you know, when we were in Serpent Mound, which is surprisingly where my husband had his awakening drums as well. So I was like, they're calling you. Sorry, your number's up. But
here they are.
When we were there, I was taking a video, and my video like was bouncing around, like as if you were moving, like if the frame was the whole thing, and I was like holding it still, but it was bouncing around, showing the energy, then the area, and then also, and of course it is known for its energy, but then also we got back to our rooms, our key cards wouldn't work. It had wiped our key cards.
I've had that happen before too. That's so funny. Yeah. High energy like that, it's definitely gonna do that. It messes it up. So is there anything else you would like to say, because we're at our hour mark, and anything else you want to add to where to find you and all that before we leave?
Oh yeah. So I thank you so much, first off, to New Earth AC and the community for watching and for sharing, because I learned so much from you as well. It's a beautiful community, and I thank you. I'm very blessed to be here. And then if you want to find me, you can find my website, Wendy Napolitano. And then I'm also on Instagram as 5_ Mystic Skulls. It's and then it's a lot of underbars, 5 Mystic Skulls, Mystic Crystal Skulls. I can't even remember it, but
I put it across the bottom, so they got it. They got it.
Thank goodness. I'm like,
I
can never remember.
Here we go. Here's your YouTube. I'll put that one up for you. There you go.
Yeah. And then my YouTube is Archangel Raziel with her crystal skulls. And so if you're watching any of that, sometimes I will post light language. Fendorian comes to me quite a bit, and Fae will come up. And then of course the dragons, they like to be channeled as well. So, and when I first was working with them, I was like, you guys are killing my throat. Like it's just,
I know.
rough. So they toned it down for me. I was just like, it was so rough. And I was like, I had my tonsils taken out years ago, and it was like, it just hurt my throat. Like it would be so raspy and like afterwards. So I was like, could you just please tone it down a little bit? And so then they did. So now it's like, it's still guttural, but not as much. It's not as much growling as they had me doing originally. But please feel free to reach out. My Facebook is Wendy J Napolitano. And that is my personal, Facebook page. And then I also do have where my Instagram stuff gets shared out to my 5 Mystic Skulls page. So that's my other Facebook page. And then of course there's the Lemurian Call to Action, which for a while was Lemurians, star seeds and galactics of the world. But I think they had me change it for the conference. We needed to have some unity. And so that community is growing as well. There's a lot of beautiful shares there. And I invite you to please come in and take a look, and feel free to contribute, because love to see you guys there.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so we're going to sign off until next time, because Wendy's going to be around, because we're going to help her advertise for this Mount Shasta conference that she's doing. We're really excited for her and her peeps. So
Lemuria, call to action.
Lemuria, call to action. Yeah. So all right. So signing off. We're going to end the broadcast. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Much
Stay
love.
on, Wendy. Don't go